April Fools. April Fools, you're going to have a lot of events in April. So from April Fools, in 7 days, well, there's going to be a flood of lies that's going to come in the mainstream media and trickle down to the social media also. So for in 7 days, you have the beginning of Trump bringing Iran in. This is when Iran started to come into the picture. On April 8th is when Trump declared Iran as their government as terrorists. So you call Iran terrorists and you start stirring up the pot that way. And then in 7 days from April 8th, that declaration of Trump was Notre Dame's burning, the church burning. That was 7 days later. And then from the church burning, which is the event, because at first it's a signing, it's a declaration, it's something that Trump is doing to bring Iran into the picture to create World War III. The event first, and then 3 other events, which is either a burning, a bombing, or shooting. Not to mention the other burnings, the St. Patrick's Cathedral. It happened somewhere in between, but I'm picking, when I pick the biggest story, not something that you can go look in the newspaper and you can find it like that, or it's mentioned a little tiny bit. So now I'm talking about the thing that dominates the news. And that's what Christopher Green was talking about, because he's copying me again. He said the same thing. He just said it in different words, where in 24 to 48 hours, there's going to be a major false flag. It's going to be, I'm not sure where it is. It's going to be somewhere in this great flat plain earth, and so to speak, and then, so it's going to be, and then he's felt like he needed to warn the American public about it. So that was the key word, that it's going to be in America. But he said he didn't know where it was going to be, but he said he has an obligation to warn the American public there's going to be a false flag somewhere in somewhere in the world. And the false flag was right there in Colorado. So the 7 days in between started with the flood coming in from April 1st to April 8th, and then 7 days after that, in between these events, the burning of Notre Dame. So Notre Dame burns to the ground, and then because that was the last seventh day, then 6 days later, which was April 21st over in Sri Lanka, and the 20th here, was the bombing. ISIS, they claim responsibility after they didn't at first, and so it was a bombing. It was ISIS. It was a bunch of churches over there, and it was 6 days in between, because once the church started burning, that was the beginning of Notre Dame. That was the beginning of the 6 day pattern. So it's like passing the baton to the days, from the 7 days, passing the baton to the 6 days. And then the next event, Sri Lanka, 6 days later, on April 21st, happened. And then 6 days after that, April 27th, it was Professor Baum. And he did have a revolver, and he did do his murdering in the study, because that's where you study the Word of God at, in the church. I mean, apparently, but whatever. So it was Professor Plum. He did have a revolver, and he was in the study, and his name was John Ernest, and John has come to help SJD, and Ron is there. He's going to come too, or supposedly, or not, or maybe, or his dad coming up from Florida. So expect, you know, this that tsunami to happen in Florida on the television set. Your TV is going to be flooded. I hope you guys bought flood TV insurance, because when that water comes gushing out of your TV, you might flood your own house. So just be prepared for the flood to come through. Now, so April 27th was the Poway shooting, and his name was John, right? He's the shooter. He's 18 years old. 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 666, and that was the reference of, you know, there's going to be a white supremacist, it's going to be a shooting, it's going to be April 27th, it's going to be a church, and he's going to use a gun. And I'll be damned, wasn't that the exact same thing that happened on the exact same date? The only thing I didn't get was where was the shooting going to be? It was in America, and you know, because the North shot 2 missiles in 5 days with their staged acts of acting, you know. And then, so from the 27th, with the shooting of the 18-year-old shooter who killed 1 and injured 3, well, now, yeah, well, first, the baton is being passed from that incident, trickling into the next, and then here, what comes next 5 days later, because it's the beginning of the 5-day pattern now, is May 2nd, when Trump, it's another like declaration, it's another reasoning for the United States getting Iran involved. So Trump, he squeezes off the oil for the exports of the oil, the sanctions against Iran over in the Strait of Hormuz, right? So that's Trump's way of, first he punched, you know, Iran with his left hand and punched him in the eye on April 8th by calling him terrorist. Then he punched him with the right on May 2nd to cut off their oil supply, their exports, and it's like half the world's oil. You think that's not going to have an effect? So he's punching Iran left and right, and then the baton's being passed between the 6 days to the 5-day pattern. And then what comes 5 days after May 2nd is May 7th, which is the shooting in Colorado, STEM High School, something, I forget the name, Highlander or something. But it's a school 5 days later that is a shooting with a gun. So the mirror image of the next staged event, because there's a signing event, and then there comes 3 more staged events. Now, we'll find out whether it's 11th or the 12th, and then we'll really know the pattern from that point. Because it's somewhere in between. Is there one more 5-day pattern, or does it just begin to the 4? So from the 27th, 5 days later, to the 2nd, the signing, the pattern from that being before is the signing, declaration, and then 3 events back to back with 6 days in between. So then now you have a signing. We have 5 days from the sign, and then in between is the 2nd, and then the 7th, which is the shooting in Colorado. And so here's the transfer. Here's the baton being passed from one story to the other as a mirror image. You have the 18-year-old shooter in Poway, 1 dead, and then shooter in Colorado is one dead, which is an 18-year-old, and two shooters, two missiles shot off within 5 days in between. Kim Jong-un, the North, which is really representing North America, but they're saying the North. You see how it works there? North Korea's symbols of what they're doing symbolizes what's going to happen over here in America with their subliminal messages. And then, so there's the 5 days in between that. So we need, we need two more events to make it the same as the mirror from before, the 3 events, along with the signing, because it's a signing and then 3 events, and then a signing and then 3 events. But this first event happened, which is the shooting. You can say there's 2 more. That's the thing. You can say there's 2 more patterns of 5 days in between, but we're going to find out. So the school that was shot up is a science and a mathematical type of school, technical school. Now, the funny thing is, Daniel and his buddies, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, well, they were 16-ish, okay? See this pattern too? Trying to mimic the Bible. So, as Daniel was 16, 17 years old, whatever, he's in high school, they all went to some type of science, mathematical school, because Daniel, well, the Bible says it was a freaking science school, right? And then on top of that, obviously Daniel was into mathematics, because how else did he figure out that, well, it was 70 years were determined when Jeremiah was talking about the desolation of Jerusalem. So Daniel was into math, apparently, and that's what he did. So they're mimicking the school itself, referring to it being Daniel, and I don't know yet, but maybe the shooter's name, the other one, the one that I'm not sure if it's really a girl or a boy and wants to be a boy or a girl. Don't know what the name is yet, but it could be Daniel. It could be Danielle. Probably it's probably Danielle, but he wants to be called No. If it's a boy, when they locked him up, he looked like a boy, right? But then when they got him in, it was a girl. It's either one or two things. Either it's a boy that wants to be a girl, and the boy's name is really Daniel, but it wants to be called Danielle, or it's a girl named Danielle, and it looks like a boy. And then when it got locked up, it wanted to be considered a girl. I don't know, whatever. Look, it's kind of confusing. The point of the matter is, it's a numerical pattern of how they do their little tricks and trades. And from the 7th, the last school shooting, the mirror image of the shooter and the age of the shooter and the shootee is the same. It's 18. Now, 5 days from the 7th is May 12th. 4 days from the 7th is May 11th. So depending on what day, whether it's the 11th or the 12th, that's when the rest of the pattern should be nailed down, locked solid. And it'll be 4 days in between, 3 more events. But if this one is 5 days in between, if this next event happens on the 12th, then, well, you have the signing of, the reason why World War III is going to be declared is because of May 2nd. You're taking food off of the person's table, and it's like, what do you think? They're just gonna like, oh, well, that's fine. You can have it, I don't think it works like that. Even though it's all scripted, but you know, even in a script, you have to make sure that the script is as realistic as possible. You can't allow that to happen. So you're gonna war with that person, aren't you? I mean, you're gonna fight over your food, especially if you're hungry and they're taking food off the table of your family. So that's that script. That's what happened, and that happened to be already 5 days from the shooting of Poway, which also had the reference of the Border Patrol guy and the lying rabbi that said his fingers got shot off. You know, everybody's lying. Just what they're doing. So that's a 5-day pattern to start from there, and then the May 2nd, the beginning of the reason why World War III will be declared, and then 5 days after that, which is the shooting in Colorado Science Math School that Daniel and his boys were at. And so the next event, if it's 5 days, well, then the following one should definitely be 4 days, 4 days, 4 days. But if it's already ran its course with the 5 days in between, see, the question is it the event and then 5 days in between event, 5 days in between event, and then 5 days in between event, and then it's the transfer? Because, well, from April 8th is the event. I'm starting with April 8th is the event, and then the 15th of April was the shooting. I mean, was the burning of, you know, it's kind of confusing sometimes. I gotta remember what he's saying. The burning of Notre Dame, 7 days in between, and then from that event, that was the beginning of the 6 days. So you had the declaration, whatever, and then 3 events, and then the last event is going to mirror the next event. That, you know, you pass the baton. You pass the baton, and also the same event. So when it's 6 days from April 15th to the mosque, Sri Lanka, it just seems like it would be mosque over there, but 6 days from that Sri Lanka bombing, and then 6 days in between the next event, which is the 27th Poway shooting in the church, and then 5 days after that. Yeah, okay, so I think I just answered my own question. It's 2 different 6 days in between. Shut up. It's 6 days in between the events, but it's 3 events. 15th and then 6 days. 21st and then 6 days. 27th and then 5 days. 2nd and then 5 days, which is the 7th, and then 7th to the 12th, 5 days. Okay, that's what it seems like. So it looks like it's the 12th, and then it'll be, yeah, yup. Okay, well there it is. If it's a mirror event, and the countdown is 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's 3 events with a span in between of the same amount of days, and then on top of that there's some kind of a signing first for Trump, and then 3 events, and then another signing, and then 3 events, and the last event mirrors the next event that transfers the baton for the days in between, then it looks like the next event is a mosque. All right, and it's the Iran mosque, the one over in Iran. I'm picking Iran, the mosque on the 12th, which is Sunday over there, the 11th over here, which is Saturday. So somewhere around Saturday night we should hear about the news being over there in the 12th, and with the burning or the bombing of one of the mosques over in Iran, one of the most famous ones over there, well then, and you have that on the 12th, well then there would be that event passing the baton to the next 4 days event, because then the next event will be the 16th of May, which is the which will be the 16th over in Israel when it's the 15th here, because the passing the baton of the days in between and the event being a mirror image, like the shooting in, using the gun, the shooter, going from 1 to 2 shooters, witnesses, with the shooter being 18 years old, and then the one dying, and then the person dying over in the next event is 18 years old with a gun, a shooting. So you have the mosque, the bombing, the burning, whatever, burning it, set it on fire, bomb it. If you bomb it, it's on fire, so it's a burning. If you start it with a candlestick and Colonel Mustard goes in with the candlestick and burns it, well, it's a little bit different. But if you go in with a bomb, then firecracker, then it's going to explode either way. And then, because you have Israel and the 70th full year anniversary on the 15th, and then going into the 16th over there and over here, well, that's when it looks like the next event is the mosque over there in Israel, right where they want to get rid of that chrome dome, a golden dome, and because just rumors that they're going to build the third temple right there, even though the third temple is right here, and but they're playing it out literally. So that would be the mirror event, because it's Iran and it's Israel. That's who's involved here, and America's like supposedly pulling the strings. So when you have the mirror image of the mosque explosion, and then you have the 5 days in between from the last events, then this is going to be the last event, and then the mirror event is the transfer of the days, which would now be 4, and then it's going to have reference to, it's going to be the same type of whether it's it's either going to be the same type of weapon and place, or the same type of person and place, or person and weapon, or weapon and place, something like that. And it only makes sense to happen in Israel because on the 70th year anniversary, God's supposed to be mad, and he's supposed to crack open something, or his wrath is going to come upon Israel, or it's just going to be another terrorist attack going from the 15th into the 16th. And then you would have, that's the beginning of the 4-day in between passing the baton and the mirror image episode, and then you would have 4 days, which would land on the 20th of May, where the waters will be abated, and that's the end of the 150 days from the government shutdown in December 21st, 2018, when the government partially shut down for the next 35 days. And then Trump came in February 15th. He came in January 25th to sign it open again for another 21 days, and then February 15th came along, and then you had your what did he sign? He signed something, I forget, I gotta go back and look. It was a major thing, I think, in the school he was talking about, and then it's like the mentioning of the 30 days, start talking about that, meaning the next month. And then that's when March 15th happened, the New Zealand shooting with the white supremacist guy that went in and killed 50 people, just the same way that 50 people died at the over-exaggerated shooting in Orlando, taking the Pulse nightclub. So you see how there's they always repeat the numbers and patterns and stuff. And then it was a 30-day decree. So from the 15th of March, it was 30 days until the next major news dominating church event, which was the burning of the Notre Dame. And then And also, it's still going to be 30 days again from that point on, which lands on perfectly enough May 15th, 16th, 15th. That's a 30-day connection. That's how, that's how God works too. He uses things in the Bible and he connects it with multiple dates or events that connect perfectly with 2 or 3 different reasonings for it. And then so that's the 30-day connection, the 30-day decree, and then and at the same time the days in between all of the events is a pattern in itself, with the 7 days in between and then the 6 days in between and now the 5 days in between, and then it looks like the 12th is going to start to be 4 days in between. And so there's your pattern. There's the elites world script. That's how they're playing it out. The closer we get, you're supposed to know what they're doing. And if you don't know what they're doing, then just pay attention and you will know what they're doing. And then everybody that understands this pattern, you can start, like I said before, you can use May 3rd and say that Iran is going to drop bombs. And but then the ignorant will say, it wasn't Iran, duh, it was Gaza. And it didn't happen on the 2nd, Rab, in May. It didn't happen on the 3rd. It happened on the 2nd. And it didn't even happen. It was Trump. He shut off their oil. And then there was bombs in somewhere else where Israeli News Live guy said it was Russia and Syria. It wasn't even Iran. And either way, and then Gaza is the one that dropped the bombs on Israel on the 2nd and 3rd, not Iran. But when you know better, you know that after they start talking about it, they're all saying, even Israel is claiming that it is Iran that is responsible for the bombs, being dropped. So yeah, I'm very satisfied with saying about 60 days beforehand, because the earliest video that I have is, I think it's March 4th, somewhere around there, March 4th, May 3rd, bombs will be dropped, Iran. And then I did another one where it's Iran, May 3rd, World War III will be declared for dropping bombs on America/Israel, because I tweaked it a little bit as knowledge increases. So if anybody wants to hold me to some of the things I said before and I change my mind, well, just understand you have to go with the flow. If you don't go with the flow, you're going to be damned. Because if you're not going with the flow, you turn into a dam. Interruption of the flow of water. So knowledge increases, and then you understand, okay, here's the pattern. I'm glad to give it to everybody freely. Here's the pattern. Here, hey, you want to know what the world script is doing? That way you can literally prophesy to anybody and say, hey, you know what? Guess what's going to happen on May 12th. Guess what's going to happen on May 12th? Well, I'm like 99% sure that it is the 5-day pattern, and this is the last 5th day pattern until the baton is passed to the 4-day pattern with a mirror image of the event that'll take place, which is a mosque. It's time for a mosque to get blown up, and then it's time for Israel. It's time for Iran's mosque to get blown up, and then it's time for Israel's mosque to be blown up, because they got to rebuild the temple and they got to put the 3rd temple. That'll be the reason why they can build the temple there. It's like, it's gone there. Who cares? It's time to build the 3rd temple, because Christ is going to live in the third temple. But the Antichrist has to make himself known to the world and tell everybody he's the Antichrist, which he won't do. He will tell you, you just have to read between the lines. Nothing is given to anybody. You have to take what they're giving you and filter it out to get to the truth. It's like water. It's like water. Water comes in, they filter all the filth out of it, and then eventually somehow it's a miracle. I don't know how that works, but then all of a sudden, like, drinking water comes out of it because they got rid of all the filth, supposedly. So when you can go and tell people what's going to happen next, and then it does, I mean, they're going to start listening to you like, what's going to happen next? It's like the most willing to listen to you type of person that has been in your life, right? All of a sudden is going to be like, Robin, what? Wow, that really happened. What's next? Huh? What's next? And so I called my sister yesterday over in Guam, and I talked to her about everything, and because I've been harking on to my family, man. I mean, I'm a thorn, you know. I am a hemorrhoid to my family over the past 10 years because I've been harping on May 21st, 2011. I've tortured people, tormented them with that date 7 years ago, between 7 and 10 years ago. And here I am again. This time it's not torment. This time it's like, hey, look, I have videos to prove what I said. I'm using my other witness, the AI witness, to testify for me that these events are taking place and this is the way it's happening, and these events are all fake. Because look, her husband, my brother-in-law, Troy, he is in the NCIC, right? He's in the CIA. I don't know what the difference is. I think one of them investigates. Either way, he's inside. And he's he's like you guys. The ones that you have a job to do. You know, you get paid well, you get taken care of, benefits and everything by the government. And your job is to look for liars and criminals. So the criminals are the ones that are writing these scripts and passing it off as truth in the world. It's time for these criminals to get what they deserve. So he's just doing his job, and I don't think he believes that these bombs are fake, but I think he will very soon, because I told my sister, and she's going to be over there prophesying to him over in Guam when the bombs hit.